Hey, everybody, off the top rope, off the Mike Sports Network here. I had my reservations that AEW was going to be able to sustain the momentum that they did from that show in Boston a couple weeks ago when they passed WCW Nitro for the longest running TBS primetime wrestling show. You guys have heard that ad nauseum. I gave them credit. I was like, hey, but I also said, let's give this a minute. Let's see if they can actually get some consistency. Now, last week was fine. This week was just a blob of a show. Like it was just there, and it was kind of at some points really dull and kind of boring. Um, I understand that some people will come at me and say, "Oh yeah, the opening tag match that went almost half the first hour of the show was a lot of fun." Yeah, it was a PWG style event where you just had a bunch of dudes doing a bunch of crazy shit and a bunch of shit that didn't mean anything. Um, you try to maybe use that as a vehicle to get people hyped up for Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada when you didn't need to put them in that match to begin with. Like, admittedly, it was fun. You had the weird spots where, Ricochet was like, using the Young Buck's hair to like make himself look like that he wasn't bald because, like, haha, Ricochet's bald. It's like, it's just a bunch of low hanging fruit. Like, look, it was fun. And this is one of my big critiques with AEW is the fact that, it's just a bunch of empty calories sometimes with some of these matches. And like, there's not a lot of long-term storytelling. There's not a lot of things that really matter. And, when I saw that they booked this match, I was like, what is this accomplishing? Like you had Okada and Omega who, yeah, great. I saw a lot of fans going crazy saying, yeah, hey, first time in 7 years they've been in the ring. You guys have been building this thing since December that they're going to face each other at All In, and then on a random, Wednesday night in Virginia, you're just going to throw them out in the middle of an 8-man schmoz of a tag team match that goes half the first hour of the show. That when I came away from it, it meant nothing. Yeah, there was a bunch of cool moves, but it meant nothing. It meant nothing. And then you have the Ops. Like this is another great way to build your world heavyweight title match. The Ops with Samoa Joe, they just have this random, trios match against a jobber team. Good to see Nick Camarado back. He's a big guy. But yeah, they just beat these guys in like a couple minutes. And then, it sets up, ultimately what's going to be Mox and Samoa Joe. And hey, the new detail that it's going to be in a steel cage. Sadly, Samoa Joe is not winning. I would love to see Samoa Joe win, but he's not winning. Um, just the standard Death Rider shit with whatever. It's so, and then, you go further down this show, like, and Tony Storm, who I think is just a gift to professional wrestling. She faces Miyu Yamashita, and when they made this match, I thought it was a joke because I was like, God bless this woman who I've heard stuff about, but I had no idea who she was. You had to Google her. There was no hype package about who she is. They just sort of, as they were introducing her into the match, hey, this is who she's facing. And it's like, why is Tony Storm having an eliminator match on Dynamite against somebody who's not even, signed to AEW? You want to know why? And I will do a separate video about this. The AEW women's division has been completely buried. There's nobody else for Tony Storm to face except the two women that she's potentially could face who are fighting for the right to face her at All In. Like, it's just like, we're basically just, window dressing until we get to Texas. And especially when you have the other, women's champion in Mercedes Moné involved in it, and you've given me zero reason to, care that, she's going to lose. Like, it's, what are we doing? And she was just completely talking down to Jamie Hayter the whole time. The MJF stuff, listen, I've kind of warmed over to it a little bit. I still think it's not the greatest use of the longest reigning AEW champion, but here's what I will say about the MJF Hurt Syndicate stuff. At least it's a story. At least it's a story that's hooking you in every single week, waiting to see what's happening, waiting to see if Lashley's going to kill somebody or, if Lashley's going to kill MJF or if MJF's actually going to join the Hurt Syndicate or if he's going to form his own group. And seemingly, like, a lot of people are catching on to the fact that maybe MJF is going to reunite with Dax and Cash in the Pinnacle. And he's obviously got a relationship with Stokely. So, like, I think that at least is something. And, Dax and Cash are seemingly gearing up to potentially be heel tag team champions whenever they face Cope and Christian when seemingly that's the direction that they're going to go with that. So at least that's a story. At least that is a tangible story that's coming through for AEW. But then the rest of this, like they randomly throw together a Jay Lethal against Nick Wayne, some of the stuff with the patriarchy with Christian, like they're seemingly letting that bake a little bit before Christian gets kicked out of the patriarchy. But this was just a thrown together match that didn't need to be on Dynamite, and it wasn't even announced. It was just announced on the show. And then, the main event was great, which was the main event was literally, I think, the whole selling point of this entire show, which is Hangman in his home state of Virginia, getting a match against facing off against Kyle Fletcher for the right to face Will Ospreay. And Hangman predictably wins. It was a great match, but here's a big quibble for me. How the hell this match got less time than the opening tag match is beyond me. Like that, at least this match had stakes to it. And Hangman's just an incredible wrestler. And, Fletcher, at some point, they need to push this guy and put a championship on him, for God's sake. Like, he looks like a star. He's young. He's talented. He can talk. He's got the look to him. Like, everything about him seems to, lead yourself. But Kyle Fletcher has been put in so many high-profile situations and has not been rewarded. It was so obvious what this was going to do. They gave you a good chance to misdirect and maybe think that he was going to face, but we all knew that Hangman was winning this match. So, again, a great finish to a really dull show. And again, it's just back to the soul-crushing status quo of this company just, resorting to hey, let's get through with just bangers and, nothing else. And, really one tangibly hooked story that we've got, because basically we've got 2 tournaments going on that we're building to something else. So again, everybody thinks that I just hate this company. I hate what it's become, because it's almost like the basics of what this made this company so good and attractive in the first 2-3 years of it, with the stories that they had and all the entertainment. They have just resorted to just, using matches as a vehicle to get to stories that don't even really mean anything. And then that opening tag match is just exactly what is wrong with this company. As entertaining as it was, can you guys, honest to God, without going to the internet, tell me if any of that really registered with you? Oh, it was a cool movie. It's like going to see an action movie with a million explosions, and then afterwards you're like, oh, it's a popcorn flick. Bunch of empty calories. Nobody gives a shit. That's what this company is. And it's like everybody, complains about WWE is, oh, it's a soap opera. It's like, hey, at least they give you stories for a reason for you to come back and watch. Like week to week, it's like Tony Khan's going into his toy chest and just saying, oh, what am I going to throw? Like, he literally, part of this match was, hey, one of your big matches at All In, 2 of those guys are in there. And then there were 2 matches that happened on the show last week. He literally threw all those 8 guys and called it an all-star tag match. All due respect to Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey. They've been there for a cup of coffee. Nobody gives a shit about the Young Bucks. Okada is an all-star, but he hasn't been presented like that since he got to AEW. And Kenny Omega is maybe the best wrestler, maybe alive, and yet we're throwing him into this? Like, really? Kenny Omega freaking beat diverticulitis. He almost fucking died. And yet we're just throwing him into this random schmoz of a match? Like, what is this? So, man, like I said, I'm not surprised that this was a very disappointing show. And God bless you if you're a sicko. If this is for you, fine. But it's just like, when you're talking about trying to appeal to mainstream people, especially with the narratives that have been going on with WWE, with the prices and the bad ending to WrestleMania, and just a lot of people have been turned off by it. You would think you'd want to appeal to casual fans, and it's like, yeah, it's one thing that you're going to lower your prices and make everything affordable, but you got to give people a reason to come back and care. So we'll see what they do at Double or Nothing. I don't think Mercedes Moné is going to lose to Jamie Hayter. I hope I'm wrong. And, at this point in time, I hope Hangman's the winner. I wouldn't mind Will Ospreay, but I think Hangman's just got a better story to him. And I've been saying this, that he can be the one to kind of, resurrect and, save this company from the Death Riders. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway, that's my overriding picture of what's going on with AEW Dynamite. I'll have some other shorter clips and shorter videos about specific individual storylines to come out of this show. But we'll have that and more on this channel. A lot of sports content, NBA playoffs going on, a lot of crazy shit going on. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon.